Good evening and welcome to the Island Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me as co-host, Andre Doc Manders. Well, Doc, the season is winding down. Teams were playing 2 games today, and the T20 Premier Division League was wrapped up by St. George's, who had back-to-back wins today. Unfortunately, the team that was closest to them, Bailey's Bay, had back-to-back losses. Also having back-to-back losses today was Western Stars, and Cleveland County had back-to-back wins. Let me just run down the results from today. In the earlier matches, Cleveland County won by 22 runs over the Somerset Cricket Club. Cleveland County scored 116 for 5. Somerset could only manage 94 for 5. Southampton Rangers won by 86 runs over Bailey's Bay. Southampton Rangers scored 212 for 3. And bowled Bailey's Bay out for 126. St. George's Cricket Club won by 9 wickets over Western Stars. Western Stars scored 68 for 6 in their allotted overs, and St. George's scored 69 for 1. Later in the day, Warwick Workmen's won by 6 wickets over Western Stars. Western Stars scored 114 for 7. Warwick Workmen's would make 118 for 4. St. George's Cricket Club won by 1 wicket over Bailey's Bay. Bailey's Bay scored 90 for 9 in their allotted overs, and St. George's scored 91 for 9, winning by 1 wicket. Cleveland County won by 59 runs against Southampton Rangers.
Hey, what you did? Not in my room, bike.
Sorry.
Sorry. Cleveland County scored 154 for 3 and bowled Southampton Rangers out for 95. Let's start with those earlier games, Doc. We had Cleveland County and Somerset down at Lord's. I mean, you know, Somerset were on a revival, but sometimes it's best to kind of not put a target on your back and, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. Mackay McGowan scored 70 runs over 49 balls. He had 2 fours and 1 6 as Cleveland scored that 116 for 5. Greg Mabry took 1 for 13 off of 4 overs and 1 maiden. That 1 wicket came off the very first ball of the game. In reply, Somerset could only manage 94 for 5. Matt Watson was the top scorer of 42. McGowan took 2 for 22 to lead the Cleveland bowling attack. So, you know, we're coming down to the wire, and some of these teams, especially Somerset and the Cleveland County, they need wins in order to stay up. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, yeah. Both teams are fighting to stay up.
It's quite a bit of the teams in that fight now too, if you think about it. I think
Right.
Stars is there, Cleveland, Somerset. I don't know about Rangers, but they got a win today, and of course Warwick.
Yeah.
Warwick battling back. So it's crazy.
Yeah. The other game, as we've already mentioned, Southampton Rangers, that 212 for 3. Gennaro Tucker, 91, came off of 56 balls, 6 fours, 7 sixes. Charles Trott added 60 off of 19, hitting 2 fours and 8 sixes. Shirai Tavares took 2 for 37 from 4 overs. And then Bailey's Bay struggled right from the start. They were all out for 126. Terran Frey was the top scorer of 47. Dion Stovall took 4 for 12 off of 4 overs that included a maiden. And Gennaro Tucker bowled 3.2 overs, 3 for 20. So again, we saw Rangers go through a patch where both Tucker and Dion Stovall were not in the team. And you see the difference when those two are in the team. But it didn't work for the second game. But you see the difference in the team.
Yes. They can compete. But for some reason, when they don't play, I don't know what's going on. But it's definitely, when those guys experience it, both of them there, it helps the team a lot. which is unfortunate. Sometimes, like I said, we talked about before. Sometimes players got to step up, and obviously, most of the players, there's other players that are not stepping up. So that's why they keep getting those losses.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it's not only Rangers that are struggling for some of the good players. There's a few other teams
Mhm.
that coming down to the crunch time now. I think a lot of players being football season with the hurricane and a lot
Mhm.
of the availability of players right now is very, very hard.
Right.
It's so much things that are going on. Even though it's winding down for cricket, normally around this time, the cricket season, it's pretty
Done.
much finished
Yeah. Yeah. It's
in
done.
October. So I think people has made plans
Right.
anyway, thinking that the season wouldn't be this long. But
Mhm.
that's why I say if you have a strong bench, that's why St. George's and a few other teams, that have a strong, maybe 15, 16 players that, when the two or three other good players are missing,
Right.
other players just come in and step it up, So
Mhm. Yeah.
um, that's one thing a few of the other teams, don't have.
Right. Right. And the other early game in the Premier Division today, it was St. George's beating Western Stars. The game was reduced to 13 overs.
Yeah.
Western Stars scored 68 for 6. Trey was the top scorer with 20. Alan Douglas took 4 for 11 off of 3 overs. And then St. George's scored 69 for 1. Douglas was the top scorer with 29. Rohan Davis took 1 for 17. So St. George's knew they're going into this game, they needed to play it. And they got it underway at Wellington Oval and managed to beat Stars. But then they had to travel to Seabreeze for that second game. But making sure they got this one out of the way was important. I mean, Stars would have wanted to get the better of St. George's in the first game to kind of settle themselves down and kind of pull themselves out of the drought they're in, because they've been struggling of late. Things haven't been going their way. And to only score 68 runs in 13 overs, you put yourself in a hole.
Yeah, obviously, I guess probably the preparation of the wicket. I don't know. Being that they played, it was the first game.
Right.
Like you said, St. George was trying to get the wicket ready. Obviously, it might have been some moisture in the wicket, or Stars, probably didn't assess the wicket, good enough. I don't know who won the toss,
Right.
but when you get times like that, there, hurricane season or rain before the game, the day before. If you think about it, most wickets sometimes around this time of the year are probably not covered. So
Right.
it's vital that you win the toss. So I'm not saying that's the reason why they lost, but I'm pretty sure that played a major factor
Right.
in the loss. If you look at it, they struggled, but the batsmen were struggling, for the last, like you said, the last 4 or 5 games.
Right.
Have been
Right.
struggling.
Yeah.
And again, missing, I think it was 2 or 3 of one of the frontline batsmen in both games today. And it was a major blow. Like Brian Hall didn't play this weekend, and then of course my nephew is away in school.
Right.
And then I had a few other players, that couldn't make it for obvious reasons, work and other things. But that's what I keep saying, that it's good to have a strong bench, especially when you're fighting for relegation. Even if you look at it for Stars, the first 4 or 5 games that they was in second place, right behind St. George's.
Right.
They was winning, and they are now towards the end. With the availability of players, the struggling guys are out of form, at the wrong time. And if you look at the other teams like Somerset, Cleveland, and Warwick, they're coming along. That's the winning.
Right.
With that team, they got the nucleus of the team still here. I'm sure they maybe lost 1 or 2 players,
Yeah.
but like I said, with Warwick, Cleveland, and Somerset, these teams, they're fighting right to the end.
Yeah.
So they're putting a lot of pressure on Stars, Rangers, and
Yeah.
and there's other teams that are just above them. So it'd be interesting. I think next week is how many games? Just one game or two?
It's some teams play two to finish
Right.
the season.
Stars only got one.
Right. Some teams have played all the games and have that bye. Remember, you have that bye. So
Right.
some that second game today would have been their bye. So and I think
it's a must win for Stars next week. They have to win.
Yeah, they have to win. And any chance of staying up, they have to win.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the second half of today's matches. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, as we already indicated, right after the match with Western Stars at Wellington Oval, St. George's had to make their way to Seabreeze to take on Bailey's Bay. We noted that Bailey's Bay had earlier lost to Southampton Rangers, and then here they are taking on St. George's. So Bailey's Bay batted first. They actually won the toss and went to bat. They scored 90. Shirai Tavares was the top scorer of 35. He was the only batsman in double figures. Taryn was out for 2. Coolidge Doran was out for 0. Stephen Otterbridge was out for 6. Shaquille Otterbridge out for 0. Kyle Hudson 7. Maurice Steele 8. And the likes, it was always going to be a struggle for them once they started losing wickets at a regular pace. I mean, Alan Douglas took 2 for 21. Zico Burgess took 2 for 12. Onias Bascom 2 for 22. And Zari Painter 2 for 10. And, they kept the bowling, they kept it really, really tight. And then, of course, Bailey's Bay were finding themselves struggling to get the ball anywhere, even off the square.
Yeah. And, basically, St. George's got to go Berlin Tech, just like Bay. I'm not surprised at this course because 2 good Berlin teams. And like I said, you gotta, like I said, with the preparation of wickets due to the hurricane, I'm sure a lot of those wickets have moisture and other things in it. So, to be a Berlin now is probably good. You're gonna get the ball to probably do things that you don't want to do. And, you know, like I said, if those two teams got probably one of the two best building attacks in the Premier Division.
Right.
So, you know, and both teams struggled to make runs. And St. George's ended up winning. So
yeah, in the St. George's inning, Allen was out for 8. Mackay was out for 3. Jonte Smith was the top scorer at 23. Treddy scored 16. Anias was out for 3. Tamiko Wilson was 13 not out. He actually saw him through with Brendan Svensson because they had Zico scored 14 off of 11 balls, 1-4, 1-6. But he was soon out, and Smith was out for 2. So young Brandon Swenson and Tamiko Wilson were able to take the score from. Well, they lost They lost Jabari Darrell on 90. So the scores were level, and Brandon Swenson would have scored the winning run off of the first ball he faced. So that would have been some excitement for St. George's to win that match. But as you've already indicated, both teams have solid building attacks that wouldn't surprise you why the scores were both so low.
Oh yeah, like I said, you know, and you look at the batsmen, St. George's got a lot of those guys have been making runs, Alan Douglas, Mackay, Anias, and these guys. So, you know, obviously the ball was the top of the bat in that game. And if you look at it, in most games, I think the highest scores was Rangers, and they scored 200.
Right.
And they played at Bay, right? That game was at Bay, right?
And they batted first.
So, yeah. Right. And Bay's wicket, you know, has always been good the whole season. So, you know, I think that's where Stars was, and they was winning. They got most of the wins at Bay. They was used to playing because they trained on there. So, you know, that wickets have been pretty good the whole season. But you know, coming down to crunch, a few of the fields being closed now, so it's making it difficult, like for teams to, you know, teams to play. Can't spread it around. I think it's only 3 or 4 fields that are available now.
Right.
I think next week games are going to be at White Hill. I don't know if there's any games that was up there this week, but I mean yesterday or today. But like I said, you know, it all comes down to now that the batsmen have to concentrate a little bit more. You know, maybe the shots that they used to play before you can't do. Ball might be staying low, popping up, or you know, the buildings. Like I said, it's just a matter, you know, staying there and being much more patient. You know, you have to try to grind it out. You know, it's not always about hitting your ball outside, especially when the wickets like that. You know, you can have to grasp, you know, running between the wickets and picking up the singles.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. Which is important.
If you can't make the boundaries, singles,
you got to pick up this. You got to rotate the strike because once you rotate the strike, you know they bring the field in, and then you always go over the top. But you got to find the gaps, you know, and you got to put away the bare balls. I'm sure, you know, and that's it. And improvise too. Sometimes the building's like you got to try to improvise. When I say improvise, you don't slow. You don't have to speak. You got, you know, it's just a matter of like maybe a little bit of rest, more rest, and trying to find the gap.
Right.
But that comes from experience, you know.
That and training.
Players, exactly. So I don't know how many teams are training now. You know, football season and a few of the teams now is you know, it's winding down. So there's no excuse. And a lot of these guys have been playing all year, so they should be. You know, you know, it's not like it's early in the season.
Yeah. They're not 1 week in. About
exactly.
12 weeks enough.
So you know, there's no excuse.
Right. And then Southampton Rangers had to leave Seabreeze, where they had earlier won, traveled on to Lords and St. David's, where Cleveland County were waiting, having just beaten Somerset. Cleveland County, they actually won the toss and elected to bat. They batted first against Somerset earlier in the day, and they would score 154 for 3. Mackay Young was the top scorer of 65. Mackay McGowan followed up his 70 with a 50. Young's run 65 came off of 61 balls, 4 fours, 2 sixes, and McGowan's 50 came off of 28 balls, 6 fours, and 3 sixes. Just Dion Stovall was able to get 2 wickets. He bowled 4 overs, 2 for 23. And then in reply, Southampton Rangers, only 1 batsman, and that was Keyshawn Wilson. I'm sorry, 2 batsmen got a double figures. Keyshawn Wilson scored 37, and Cayman Tucker scored 10. They opened with Dion and Gennaro. Dion went first bowl, LBW. Gennaro was then out for 5. Dalen Richardson was out for 7. Charles Trott was out for 5. They had lost that crucial front order so quickly. And then they had, unfortunately, Kwame Taka was run out without even facing a ball. So there they were, 29 for 5. Gerald Simons came in, he scored 10. I already said came in, scored that 10. I mean, Gerald Simons scored 6 and came and got to 10. And then, you know, the rest were just, it was just, you know, all over 95. You know, losing both Dion and Gennaro back in the pavilion, and the score's on 11. Now, as you've already indicated, someone has to take on the responsibility. But in this match, it didn't work for them.
Yeah, well, that's been happening for Rangers most of the 2020 season, isn't it? We talked about that. So it's like I said, I mean, they got 1 good win, scoring 200, and Narrow making most of the runs.
Right.
Then this time, and he don't get the runs, the same thing. So, or him and Dion. But, you know, it's a team that's rebuilding. So, you know, hopefully those young guys, you know, got to learn, you know, they have to realize, I should say, that you can't depend on these guys to make runs all the time. Right. You know, Charles Trott's been chipping in, Dalen Richardson's been chipping in too. Right. But you know, I mean, cricket's like that, isn't it? I mean, like you score 200, then the next time you build up for 90. You got to give kudos to Cleveland, because Cleveland, well, they had the advantage. They played both games. They knew how the wicket was playing. Right. You know, playing the first game down there, and bet first, get the runs, and then you know, they won both games betting first. Right, batting first, and surprisingly, 116 in the first game against Somerset, and then they were able to restrict Somerset to under 100 runs. Yeah. So that required some decent bowling, you know. Yeah. And then you bowl Rangers out for 95, which again requires some decent quality bowling. So, you know, when you start looking at that and you say, okay, well, they actually got it together today, it made it work for them. You know? Yeah, I mean, like I said, and that's, you got to give them credit, because you know, for a team that's been, you know, been losing a lot of their games, but they've been close games. Right. And then to come back this weekend and win 2 on the trot. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to get credit to them. Obviously, you know, Mackay McGowan's making runs for them. Yeah. Now Mackay Young's getting runs. So these teams are making. These teams are winning now, close to the end of the season. Right. Maybe if they would have got 1 or 2, you know, wins early this season, they've probably been out of their relegations there. Yeah. But like I said, they're performing. Yeah. You know, to beat 2 teams that been you know, on the winning streak. So that's cool for them. I don't know who they play next week. But it's going to be interesting next weekend to find out who's going on. You already know. You already know who won the league. So right. And let's talk about the final game this afternoon, which has a major impact on that relegation battle, because it was at Wellington Oval between Stars and Warwick. Stars batted first, scored 114 for 7 in 20 overs. Kyrie Furbert, 11. Gavin Manders out for 2. Trey out for 4. Sion Darrell, 26. Dante Wellman was 36 not out. Jason Anderson, 8.
Rohan Davis 7, Seth Campbell out, LBW without scoring, and Jaden Springer was 1. But just not now. That 114 was never going to be enough runs.
No.
You know, on the board. You know, you lost 7 wickets. You only scored 68 in the match before that, and you doubled what you doubled. You scored. You doubled your score, or just shy of doubling your score, and you had an extra 7 overs to build it to face. It's just never going to be enough. Luke Fulton took 4 wickets for 23 runs to lead Warwick. But when you look at that lineup that Western Stars had, I mean, Kyrie used to open, and he tried to, I guess, put himself back to lead from the front, but it didn't work. But they still had another opener in Jason Anderson, who was batting number 5. You know, and you start thinking of actually number 6. They were putting themselves deeper into a hole where if you have genuine opening batsmen, and if you're not hitting those forms, push them back up into the familiar spot and let them get comfortable there, and then you let the other guys come in and free up. But it didn't work today. No,
I mean, they've been chopping and changed. I guess on a losing streak, so sometimes you try things, but it seems like it's not working. Now it's up to the players. You say, look, no, I'm been bet number 5 now, opening, I'm going from one to the other.
Right.
You got to say, no, look, it can't be nobody else but myself. You got to put their hand out and say, look, I'm gotta go back to the basics.
Right.
And try. But anything in 2020, sometimes you don't go to the basics because you don't have time enough to play yourself in.
Right.
So like I said, we were talking about it before, picking up these singles, finding any gap until you get your eye in. And the wickets are not going to get no better.
Right.
Because the preparation, a lot of the grounds were saying, like, probably thinking like 1 or 2 games left. Why I'm going to top dress this wicket? Why I'm going to do this or this wicket? There's only 1 or 2 games left. So the shots that you played before, you're not going to be able to play.
Not at all.
Have to try to graph.
Right.
That's how you're going to win games. These last couple of games that are coming up for all the teams.
Right. But just taking a look at Warwick, Warwick scored 118 for 4 in 16.4 overs. Malachi was out for 25, but he faced 21 balls, 2 4s and a 6. You're not going to change Malachi's approach to a game. They were at one point, they were 15 for 2. They had Jacoby Butterfield out for 3, Kyle Swan out for 1, and then there was a stand between Malachi and Corey Burgess. Corey Burgess scored 27 off of 29. Now that's what you're talking about, getting the singles in. He had 2 4s and a 6. But then you had Taylor Keynes came in. He got 24 from 28, only 2 4s. Omari DeShields also got 15 from 15 balls, hitting 2 4s. So they were continuously rotating the strike, taking the balls that were there, the bad ones, put them away, but they're continuously rotating the strike to get to the total that they had to get to pick up the win. Yeah, and they wasn't chasing a big total, so they could have took the time. Stars for 114. That's like, and then 60 the first game, that's definitely not enough runs. And they had to put more pressure on Warwick to score like 130, 140. So they had to take chances to try to hit the ball. Like they were just grafting, You look at Malachi's in his head, 2 4s and 6. Like that's 14 runs there, and he ended up scoring 20-something balls. So he got a few dot balls in there, or singles, and the other guys had more balls than runs. So they done that job. Yeah, chasing a small turtle. Why they had to go out there and try to score those runs in 15, like 10, 15 overs? They didn't have to do that. Yeah. So and they got a good victory. Right. So Stars just putting themselves right in the battle now for relegation. Yeah. Big hill. Yeah. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the players of the week. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
It's putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, the standout players today, Doc. I'm going to start with Mackay McGowan. In the first game, he scored 70 runs, and then he took 2 for 22. In the second game, he scored 50 runs, and he took 2 for 5 from 1 over. The other top players include Gennaro Tucker with that 91. Dion Stovall took 4 for 12. Gennaro also had, in the game that he got the 91, he took 3 for 20. Alan Douglas took 4 for 11. As we go down the list, Luke Fulton, who has been a very good pickup for Warwick, young man doing extremely well. He took, yet again, 4 wickets for 23 runs for Warwick, and that was in their victory over Western Stars. Others in the games today for the match between Bailey's Bay and St. George, clearly the ball was on top of the bat, and Kyle Hutzel took 4 wickets in that match. But unfortunately, on a losing cause, took 4 for 17 for Bailey's Bay, and for St. George's, the wickets were shared: 2 for Zico, 2 for Nias, 2 for Allen, and 2 for Nzari. So I'm leaning towards Mackay McGowan for his 2-game performance as the player of the week. Yeah.
Yes, most definite.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he got wickets and runs.
Yes, in both matches. And capped the runs down in his bowling, as well as taking wickets and then scoring 120 runs in 2 innings. It's nothing to be. Yeah,
a good weekend.
Well, for him it was a mixed weekend because he played in the Johnny Walker Golf Tournament yesterday and didn't do rather well, so he decided to take his golf swing down to the cricket field.
Yeah, well, that's what you do.
If you get hit it outside in the trees, you might as well do it on the cricket field, right?
Oh yeah, you're safe, Dan.
Yeah. Well, Doc, I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening on the show. We'll be back next week to wrap up the season with the Island Stats Cricket Show. Okay.
Okay,
Enjoy
mate.
your night.
You
Okay.
too.
All right.